The sign may say Monday Night Memories. It's Sunday Night Memories. We're going to look back at Purdue, Indiana, February 23rd, 1985. And we've all are in complete agreement, though Nate was 4 years old, right? No, 5. The rest of us here are complete agreement that we haven't aged a bit. And we were talking about hairstyles before this started, and we have reached a consensus there. So I'm joined, and you can see on the screen here, Everett Stevens, Steve Reed, Troy Lewis, Todd Mitchell, all key components were there 40 years ago. Steve Reed might have been the man on the stage, so to speak. We'll talk about that in a bit. He got some airtime today. A lot of it. I still cannot believe we've talked about this many times over the years, Steve. What prompted you to go pick that chair? But that's that. We'll ask that too. But
all right, I can get to that.
We'll get to that. Let's first. The elephant in the room was obviously Purdue's disappointing loss today in Bloomington, and I assume you guys all had a chance to see parts, or at least see the score. And I'm really more of a question of, and go around the horn. You guys went through this a little bit, and had ups and downs throughout the course of your careers, and righted the ship. I guess I'll start with you, Todd, just on, all right, if you were in practice on Monday and had a chance to say something to these guys, what would you say to them?
Well, I think if I was in practice on Monday, I think it would be an all defensive day.
Yeah.
That's number one. I'm just watching that, and the ability to contain the ball. I know that we don't have a huge, defensive presence, obviously, rim protection this year. So, it's even more important to contain the dribble. And I think that, that's a big issue for us right now, guarding these guys who can, get it off the bounce. It's getting us in a lot of trouble. Got us in trouble today. Got us in trouble all through the state of Michigan last week.
Yeah. Troy Lewis, you've offensive guys, and you did more than that as a player at Purdue. But what do you tell a guy like as good as Braden Smith's been? He went through a tough second half and is kind of going through a tough stretch. What do you think?
Well, just keep, let your work. I know he works hard all the time. Gets in the gym a lot. Just let your work do the talking. I mean, sometimes you're going to go through stretches, but if you put the time and the work in, it's going to always come back. It's always going to come back. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. The one thing I would say, if I was talking to the team totally, would be like, I didn't think they matched their energy when they came out in the second half and got up in us. I thought they took us off our spots offensively. And, they should have came out and tried to master it. Playing on the road at Indiana, you got to expect that. I'm sure Matt said something to him about it. And plus, those guys are veteran guys, so they should have known that Indiana was going to come out and step up the pressure.
Yeah. Steve?
Well, I think what I would do if I was the coaching staff, I would be having my assistants go through between now and Monday or Tuesday, whenever you can get to it, and I would put a highlight reel together for each individual player and have them go down individually and sit down and watch plays they've made through this year, defensive stops they've had as a team, and look at that. Because we have – I don't think we ever went through a 4-game losing streak, so I know I went through a couple 3-game losing streaks while I was at Purdue, and the thing you want to try to do is not focus on the negative, but really get that confidence back. And I just think there's some guys out there playing right now that aren't playing as confidently as they were when they were on a little bit of a roll. And I think that, as much as anything, is what they need. Just get back to the fact that you're a good ball club. You got good players. Everybody's got to step up and do their job and take on their roles, both defensively and offensively. And, Todd was mentioning about the post play, and I agree, we don't have the big stopper in the middle this year. But, one of the things Coach Keady was adamant about, and Bruce Weber used to just wear my tail out about, is you have to get ball pressure on the passer. If you don't get ball pressure on the passer, those post passes or those little lobs are a whole lot easier to execute. And I just don't think we were getting great ball pressure on the passer in many cases on the wing, and you can make entry passes pretty easily then. And then these guys know. You go to Indiana. I was talking to my wife. I said, what you got to do, that we did exactly what you have to do in the first half. You get up, and then you know they're going to run a roll at you, but you can't let it get more than 4 or 6 points. You've got to, because once they get going and that building gets rocking, man, it can get ugly quickly. And unfortunately, that's what happened in the second half.
Al, you muted yourself, I think.
Hello?
We've got him. He'll be back. Let's get to you, Everett, while Al comes back. Everett, what's your take on today? Then we'll get into 85.
I mean, I would have to agree with each, Troy, Todd, and Steve. I mean, all of what they're saying, they have great points on it. I like what Steve said as far as getting the confidence back. They're a very good team, and so you got to find a way to get in their head and have them believe again. I thought it was excellent what Coach Woods did as far as he didn't start his main center, and he had someone else in there, and I was trying to figure out why would he do that, but I think it worked out from a standpoint. He just played some straight up rough and rugged basketball at the beginning to make sure if any fouls were going to take place, it wasn't going to be with his big. And it was enough to be real physical with us. And it got him in a good start. And then from then on, their confidence was rolling. And so it was just hard for us to really score because they really turned up the defense for the most part.
Well said. Well, we'll get back to that later in the program if Al has anything else, but I'm going to go back to you, Todd. Let's go into February 23rd, 1985. I guess I'll start off with each of you and beginning with you, Todd, on what were your thoughts going into Bloomington for that game? What had you heard all coming in, the young guys being recruited? Of course, Steve had been in there before, but for you guys coming in as freshmen, what had you heard about Assembly Hall and what were your thoughts going into that game before things got a little crazy a few minutes in?
Well, I think my experience that particular day was a lot different than everybody else's. The night before, Coach Keady told me, the starters typically wear the black side of the jersey, and the second teamers, of which I was one, wears the white jerseys in practice. And the night before the game, he tells me to turn black. And I was a little confused, but that turned out to be in my freshman year on the road at Bloomington, the first start that I ever had as a freshman.
Oh, I didn't know
that was in itself a incredibly nervous situation. And I was wondering, I would tell Troy, I said, man, couldn't he have given me like a warm-up game at home versus Minnesota, Iowa, get me kind of in the mix before he threw me out there on the road at IU. But once we got into the game, and obviously when that particular situation occurred, I asked Troy, I said, wow, I said, you told me that it was a rivalry, but I didn't know they are down here throwing furniture around. I'm from Ohio. I never saw anything like that. I was like, wow, this is a real rivalry they got going on here. They're throwing chairs around.
and Troy, of course, you knew all about the rivalry, but you're coming in there, and of course, I was watching CBS highlights of it today, and at the final frame, as Coach Knight walks off the floor to the locker room, about the last thing you see on the old clip is the 23 jersey for you, and so you're on the floor watching all this as it goes down. But speak to it from a guy growing up in Anderson, the perspective on the rivalry, and then getting into it your freshman year.
Well, yeah, it was a little different with me because I'm from Anderson, so there's a lot of guys that played at Indiana, like Winston Morgan, Stu Robinson, Bobby Wilkerson played on the 76 team, and Ray Tolbert played on the 81 national championship team. So I got to see those guys, play for IU. And so I knew, a lot of people in my hometown were IU fans. So when I got to Purdue, and I knew how much I wanted to play in that game. Once I committed, I knew how much I wanted to play that game. And for me going in that game, it was more like I got my classmates from high school. I had a lot of them in the stand. So my attitude was like, I'm going to show these guys that what Purdue basketball is all about. I wasn't really like too hyped up like playing Indiana. I was more like, I want to show my classmates, what we got here at Purdue. But, going in there, I knew how loud the crowd was going to be. And, I was excited to play. And, when you have a guy like Steve Reed in the backcourt, which it was kind of like a calming thing for me. So I wasn't overly hyped, but, I had the juices going for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And Everett, for you, not too far away from the rivalry up there in Evanston, what were your thoughts as you were recruited and came to Purdue and hearing about what it's like to go down to Bloomington, play Coach Knight in Assembly Hall?
Well, I mean, you know what rivalries are just from being in high school, and it's nothing like it because, again, your blood's flowing and you just really want to go out there and play well and win. But it was a different level when I came to Purdue. I mean, I never seen so many people, just go around and, excited about, the season, and all they talked about was beating IU and how much they hated IU. And I was like, man, it was just so overwhelming, like, wow. And it just over the years and time, it just ingrained in me the same way they felt because it was a big rival. But for that particular game, I wasn't playing a lot. And that was the one game in which I was praying not to play because I was seriously praying that he wouldn't put me in. And it wasn't like I was playing a whole lot as it was, but it was just the air was so thick in there. I mean, everything was so intense and focused. And I just remember when Coach Knight threw that chair after he walked off. I really never heard a building so loud and piercing. And I knew right then and there, man, like, please, man, if you put me in, man, it ain't gonna be pretty, okay?
and that brings us to you, Steve. So there's a lot of things to talk about here, but
who got the dogs?
Somebody's got the dog.
Probably mine.
But let's begin with quickly the setup for those that don't know all the history. Of course, there's a scramble, right? And I think it's Marty Simmons for IU that gets called for a foul. Coach Knight goes bananas. You're getting ready to go to the line, Steve. Why don't you?
Well, you started right there. So there was a scramble at half court for a loose ball. Frankly, 4 out of 5 times that gets called a jump ball. It really wasn't enough contact probably to call a foul either way. They did call Indiana with a foul. Coach Knight was not excited about that. We took the ball out of bounds and had an inbounds play. We actually tried to throw the ball out of Bullock in the low post, and he got fouled. So he got 2 quick fouls in a row. Knight was still upset about the half-court issue, and that's when the technical foul came. So, he got a technical. I was told to go to the free throw line. Why? I don't know, because, man, I had been struggling shooting free throws that year. Although in the Big Ten I was doing okay, but I went through a mental case in December shooting free throws. But anyway, I think probably because I was a senior, coach had me go to the line. And, so I'm getting ready to get the ball. First free throw, and a chair goes flying across the court. And the first thing go through my head is that's got to be another technical. I didn't think it would be 2 more technicals, but that's got to be another one. The second thing that went through my head was go get the chair. And the reason I went to get the chair, so I was raised by a basketball coach, and he always told me when there's a loose ball or don't make the refs go, brown nose them, Go get the ball. Make sure, the refs don't have to chase the ball down. So that was almost like a loose ball. My initial reaction was just to go get the chair. As I'm running over, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with it if I get it? Kind of thing. And fortunately, a security person there, one of the ushers there, grabbed the chair before I could get to it. That probably wouldn't have been a good deal because I probably would have taken it back over to the bench, and who knows what would have happened at that point. So I get 6 free throws, and to those guys, there's 3 things you don't do on the road. You don't shoot an air ball, you don't miss a dunk, and you don't miss technical fouls. Well, I didn't have to worry about the dunking part, right? You guys can all attest to that. Air balls, man, I could do that. I mean, I was capable of doing that, but certainly when you miss a technical, that gets the crowd even more excited. And as Everett said, it was already excited with Coach Knight leaving the building. Fortunately, as YouTube has matured, they don't have the whole clip on there anymore, so they usually cut it off before I get to the free throws. But I get 6 free throws. I swish the first 2. I mean, I just good rhythm, good, right in the middle. And where I goofed up was I'm thinking, all right, we can get an 8-point possession here, and we can get this thing out to an 11, 12-point lead and really give ourselves some cushion. So I started thinking about that as opposed to making the 3rd free throw. Well, I missed the 3rd one. Of course, the crowd gets excited. I missed the next one, and the crowd really gets excited. I kind of turned around, and I don't know if Coach Keady was telling me to get off the line or let Troy come shoot him. But I more or less ignored that and turned around and missed the next one. So now I have missed 3 free throws in a row. And so you can imagine the level of noise in that crowd. And all my life shooting free throws, that last one, I don't know how it went in. My arm was visibly shaking. I could feel my elbow shaking as I was getting ready to shoot that last one. Somehow it went in. So we get the ball out of bounds, and then we don't score. So we only get 3 points out of a potential 8-point possession. And these guys know with Coach Keady and the TV media timeouts, you did not want to be the one to make a mistake right before the media timeout. And so we had a couple possessions up and down the floor, and I'm thinking I might be in the clear because something else may have happened. Somebody might have missed a shot or missed an assignment defensively. So I'm going to the huddle thinking, man, there's a chance I might not hear a lot about this. And I was completely wrong. He pretty much spent, my memory at least remembers him spending most of that time out. Steve, I've seen you make 90 free throws out of 100 every day in practice. We shoot them. This is ridiculous. You're a senior. We need better leadership out of you. And we better not lose this game, was kind of that. And Everett and our Troy and Todd were both in the game. And I think we kind of had a little semi-huddle afterwards. And so I said, guys, he's serious. If we lose, I might be riding back with my wife to Lafayette. I don't know, back on the bus. And fortunately, Todd had just a fantastic game. Didn't surprise any of us that he was capable of doing that kind of thing. We saw that from the first time he played pickup ball in June. So we won the game. We did exactly what you have to do at IU. We got a lead. We didn't let them get too deep into that lead. They might have cut it to 4-3 once in a while, but I don't think they ever got the lead in that game the rest of the time. So we really did a good job of controlling that. Yeah. Fortunately, we won because Coach Keady still claims me as one of his players, and I was able to hang out for a while around the program. So yeah, a lot of good memories. But winning at IU, that was the best. I didn't really think much about it at the time because Coach Knight was known for doing, unusual things. And so they started asking about it in the press conference, and I'm thinking, oh, this might be a little bit bigger deal than maybe I had thought. And here we are 40 years later talking about it. So it's a good win. Great, man. We won both years that year, both IU both times that year. And that was probably as important to me as anything.
Yeah.
You're back, Al.
Yeah. Sorry about my technical difficulty, but first week since 1977. Mitch, I want to ask you just and because there was some. I think Steve actually posted Nate sent out some newspaper articles. My memory. It was a wild environment in there. I mean, Pat Keady supposedly gets hit by a coin. You guys probably this during the course of the game, Steve. It was reported that you had a on your arm. Mitch, you were zone. You were playing again, having the game of your first game of your great college career, first big game.
Any recollections in terms of what the environment was? It's always raucous down there, you know.
I think we've got you on mute still, Todd.
Very similar to what Everett said in regard to Coach Knight walking out. It's the loudest I think I've ever heard a building be when he was walking out after that third technical that he got. But over the course of the game, it definitely was as rowdy as any place that I had ever played to that point. And when you're 18 years old and you're just kind of in the flow of the game, I think the best thing that could have ever happened was I played well, but you don't know what you don't know.
You're right.
And you continue to play, and you don't know the significance of it until the game is over. But I do recollect at that time, Coach Knight was the first one that started to initiate kind of the flop, right? So when guys would come across the lane, you come to set a screen on somebody. He teaches guys to jump out in the center of the key, and as you hit them, they would fall back, fall out on the ground. And if referees were not attuned to that, they call offensive foul. And Daryl Thomas happened to do that. Coach Knight didn't like that. And so that initially got him fired up. And then it went on to the issue with Steve. And then, so he was getting fired up all through that time frame. But, I just thought that particular opportunity that I had in playing in that kind of environment, and it never stopped for the next 3 years. Both teams were very good over our time frame. We had an opportunity to win in there again, and it's definitely one of the best rivalries that I've ever been a part of.
Troy, as a great scorer, which we know you were, talk about the job that Mark Atkinson did on Steve Alford that day. He holds him to 8 points, a key for you guys in that game. And, of course, also the other bigger thing that happened was it really kind of locked you in as an NCAA tournament team that season.
Yeah, Ack was a good defensive player, and what made him good because it was length. He had he was smart defensively. He knew how to get through screens. He was hard to get screened. So Steve always had to shoot overhand, but we prepared. We knew like if Ack got caught up in the screen, we switched. We actually switched at times if he couldn't get through those screens. So we were, our whole game plan was to stop Steve because they set about 12,000 screens for him. So Ack was obviously the focal point of guarding him. So yeah, it's always it's always good to have Ack in your corner there to guard Steve. And I thought in next couple of years, Everett did a great job too of guarding Steve as well.
Steve Reed, 22 to that you guys, that was my second win all time in '84. Your junior year when you beat him. And then you go, and then you have, like I said, a lot of. What do you remember about Gene Keady in the locker room? Because I remember about his post-game conference, what he said. But what did he tell you guys after?
After you're cutting out a little bit still, Alan, but I think he asked me what his response was in the locker room after the game. Hey, Coach Keady, he was just happy we won. I don't remember him saying anything about the situation with the chair or anything else. He was just glad we got a W in Bloomington. Coach was one of those guys we could play A Division II team and win by 2, and he was in a good mood, and we could play, a number 6 team in the country and get beat by 8, and he was ticked. It really did. It was about, did you win or lose? That was pretty much at the end of the game. Now, he may get on you a few times if you play somebody you should have beat better or you didn't play well, but typically, if you were playing hard and you're sharing the ball and trying to do the right things, if you got to win, he was just happy with that. And of course, winning at Bloomington, look, it doesn't take long, whether you're from Indiana, Kansas, Ohio, it doesn't take long before you realize that game is really special. And if you think about it, back then, it was even more so because we didn't have ESPN with 20 games on during the week, right? I mean, there was the the Farm Bureau Network. Yeah. So we could see the IU games. They could see our games. We knew that game was going to be, on TV. People, it was kind of the Super Bowl in Indiana when Indiana and Purdue played each other. People had parties and, family events and things like that. So it didn't take long to figure out. And I still maintain it's still good now. But boy, when Coach Knight and Coach Keady were on the sidelines, I don't think you could find anything better in college basketball.
Nate, go ahead.
Everett, I was going to ask if it dawned on you guys, or he wouldn't have mentioned it. We know Coach Keady well enough, but that was his 100th win at Purdue. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
The chair game was Coach Katie's 100th win as the Purdue coach. But Everett, as you were watching all that unfold with Steve at the line and everything with Coach Knight, what was going through your head? You commented earlier about your intimidation just being in Assembly Hall. What were you thinking when it all happened?
Well, I mean, again, Steve is an excellent free throw shooter. So, I mean, I felt good with the fact that he was at the free throw line and knocked these points down. And like you said, I do remember now that him missing the free throws, but for the most part, I mean, it was just such an intense rival. It was just back and forth. You weren't getting anything easy, and so I just remember that for me, I just wasn't mentally and physically ready to play at that level, and so I was just glad that being on Purdue's side and how we prepared and the players I know that we have. I mean, I just felt good about playing against different competition.
Yeah, Mitch, you had you talked about that was your only win there, right? Because you get 86, you had a game where you were leading in the last minute. They came back and beat you in Bloomington. I'm the only one in Bloomington, I should say. 87 was, was a mixed. You beat them they beat you and the same thing in 88. 88 game you were down 20 and came back and had a chance to win that game before a big steal by Jay Edwards. But just talk about. Do you ever have a moment with Bob Knight? In terms of, do you ever have did he ever, I'm sure he didn't acknowledge what he did, but he had respect, I know, for you guys because you were not only winners on the basketball court, but great guys and great players. But do you ever, I'm going to ask all of you this, but did anybody have a moment with Bob Knight after the fact, whether it be years later or games later, that he not necessarily mentioned this, but showed his respect for the job you guys did in your 4 years at Purdue? Todd, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
I mean, I can say the one time I really had a chance to had any kind of real communication and conversation with him was at the Olympic trials.
Yeah.
And we were out in Colorado, and I was walking in the gym, and he was standing there, and I was going by him, and I said hi to him. And he stopped me, and he told me that I had a good future. He said that I was a hell of a player. I said, "Who? You talking to me?" So, and that was like, I think maybe that was the only communication that I ever had with him. But I think that how he prepared his teams, I know that he had a lot of respect for all of us, especially in those years that came after that, when we started getting older, and the three of us were out there together. How he, tried to play defense, how he tried to stop Troy, how they tried to trap him, how they tried to get the ball out of Everett's hands. Because Everett was, he may have not wanted to get in the game that day, but years after that,
He made up for it.
He made up for it. He was one of the better guards in the league. So you could tell that he had a lot of respect for all three of us as time went on.
Yeah. Troy, obviously being an Indiana guy growing up where you did and being a focus, and certainly had a change or had shared the Mr. Basketball with Delray Brooks, who was there. But talk about that. Did you ever have a relationship with Bob Knight after the fact? I assume you did in some level, but I don't know.
No, I did not.
Really, never heard from him.
Never heard from him. Never talked to him. I mean, after they recruited me, and that was pretty much the last time I talked to him was when he came for my home visit. And then I told him that I was not coming to IU. That was pretty much it. That was it. I did not. No interaction at all. The only interaction I guess I ever had with him is my senior year. Todd and Everett might know this. I don't know if they remember this, but Everett might. I used to change my pivot foot a lot when I catch the ball, and I did a little reverse pivot. Knight picked up on it. He knew I was doing it. So we were playing him, and he starts screaming out, "He's effing traveling. He's effing traveling. He does it effing all the time." And I turned around. I just said, just be quiet. So that's the only interaction I ever had.
Steve, I know your dad being a basketball coach, there was some respect there, but any interaction with you, and I know you did all the games all those years with radio, but anything from your perspective or any memories with him?
No, well, the only thing that I have a couple memories. One was he was recruiting one of my dad's, Norman Cook, whose son Brian Cook played at Illinois. He was recruiting him, and we knew he was coming to our house for a visit, so I was in my backyard shooting hoping he'd come out and notice. I mean, I was only 10, or 12. I wasn't very old. He didn't say peep to me then, but after that all happened, he came out with his book. I read it, and he was at Texas Tech at the time. And I sent an email to his son, who was the assistant coach, and just said, "Hey, read the book, really enjoyed it. I agree it should have been a jump ball, give coach my best," or something like that. And he did respond back. Coach Knight didn't, but Patrick did, and said, "Hey, Dad says thanks." And that was pretty much it. But no, just, it's I think you get more, and I don't think you really have a lot of interaction with opposing teams, coaches after your career, just unless you happen to cross paths for some other reasons. But I think most programs are kind of family oriented. You have conversation within your group, but so it was fun. It was fun. These three guys were I knew that. I tell a story. Coach Keady called Mark Atkinson and Jim Bullock and I in the first week of school. And he says, "Hey, we've got three freshmen that are going to be pretty special. We think they're going to be pretty darn good. I know you guys have been through some pretty grueling preseason conditioning programs." He goes, "But we're going to step it up a notch this year because we really got to get these three guys, to understand what it takes to win at this level." And so we come in the second day, and Troy, I think he threw up twice on the run, and he's sitting in front of his locker, shaking his head and going, "I should have gone to Kansas. I should have gone to Kansas." So, but I think of that, I get a big kick. But obviously, they figured it out. They were top 4 team, to number 1 seed going in their senior year, and had a fantastic career. And they'll all three be together linked. The three of them will be linked together for all of Purdue history. So they had great careers, and it was fun to be a senior watching them. When I got to school, watching them just mature as players. And Everett, I remember, man, his freshman year, the first 3 weeks, I'm going, this kid's really talented, but he's going to figure it out. But we go up against each other every day in practice, so it was fun. You still never blocked my shot, ever. You blocked a lot of shots in your career, but you never got me in practice. And of course, then Todd, man, I every time I think of Todd, I think we have our our pickup games in June. He comes over for his freshman year. I mean, he's run up and down the floor like, he just blown by people. I'm going, man, this guy is going to be pretty special. And again, all three of them just had fantastic careers.
Yeah, and I think that's true. Ever any other inclinations or any other thoughts in your experience with the coach?
I never.
I just know that like Steve was saying. I mean, and Todd, the rival, it was nothing like it. It was such a I say exciting time, and being able to have those 4 years to see how important it was just to compete against your rival team and have something to have on your trophy, on your necklace, as far as wins and losses against one another. So that was just special.
Yeah.
Troy, I don't think we ever. Out of our 4 years, ended up being we tied, right? 4-4.
No, we were
5-3.
we were 5-3. Yeah, because we won those 2 games our freshman year.
Freshman year, that's right.
And then we split.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome, guys.
Well,
a good start.
we should have won. We should have won 2
That's right.
because I don't know if Alan brought this up, but I'm the one who threw the ball away to Jay Edwards. So that's still, people ask me, like, what game do you remember the most? They always think I'm going to say the chair game. It's actually the game that I threw the ball away.
Yeah.
My senior year against that. To this day, that still bothers the heck out of me.
Well, it's funny. I can remember Gene saying, he called Jay, he's a viper. He comes out like a viper, and he's gonna and he made that steal. But you guys, that game was unbelievable. Your game in '88, because you're down, was like 21 or so, and
21,
21. And Everett starts hitting threes. You guys start running the court, and all of a sudden you're ahead. What an unbelievable. That was what only one of your three regular regular season losses. James Bullock, by the way, just is logged on saying you guys look great. James Bullock was an all Big Ten guy in '85. Was pretty good player.
Yes, he was.
James Bullock, if he's logged in, James Bullock, I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for me getting hammered every single day as a freshman by him, I mean, that was a grown man now.
Yeah.
And playing behind him and playing against him every single day, I don't know if I'd ever beat a player that I was except having to play behind him.
Yeah.
But I'll also say, Troy, that was your worst loss. To me, the worst loss I've had in my whole career of playing was at IU when I stepped up to the free throw line, 15 seconds to go, man, and missed the front end of that 1-and-1. And Garrett goes down, and they throw it into Garrett. And
we both made mistakes that game. I mean, that's
that.
That's
it. And by the way, he never lets me forget that.
Yeah.
Every time I come to the house, for some reason, that's playing on his big screen. Come in there.
Hey, I just want to say too, like, Todd, Bullock, but not because Steve is on this Zoom call, but I saw how Steve worked and what it was to be a senior. He wasn't a professional, but he played like it. He came to practice every day. He worked every day, and that was something that stuck with me.
Same here.
After he left, and then we really became our team. And that's how I try to play that way, like every day in practice. I got to be the best player. I got to be the best player. I got to show these young guys. I got to show Tony Jones. I got to show, all these younger guys, hey, this is what Purdue basketball is all about. And Steve, you were very instrumental in propelling my career there at Purdue. You really was.
Thank you.
All those seniors, you and Bullock and Ack, you guys really were the ones that kind of laid the groundwork for us. But I'll never forget that long run when Troy was throwing up I used to run with James Bullock, and we came across the line, and Bullock told Coach Weber, he said, "Hey man, y'all better go get your shooter."
I could. If you were run with Bullock, you were at the end on the long distances. You were at the end of the group.
Right.
You were not towards the front. If you were Bullock, now in the sprints,
I was not. I was not.
But Jim did not like to run over 200 yards.
No,
I want to dispel this rumor here. I did not throw up. I did not.
You did too.
Up.
Yeah.
No, I did not. I did not throw up. Now, did I?
What was you doing back
did
there?
I
What was you doing back there?
I was in Kansas. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Hey, Bullock, if you're listening, man, I'll never forget, man, when we were playing at Minnesota, and you got a fast break, and man, even to this day, when I think about that, you took off from the free throw line. And understand, Minnesota's the best floor to play on because it's like a trampoline as it is.
I got Bullock's my favorite Bullock story as far as athleticism is we're playing at Purdue, playing against Ohio State. Remember Granville Waiters, big 7-foot center. We're on a fast break, and Bullock's got an alley-oop, and I throw one from half court. And as soon as I throw it, I thought, oh no, I just threw it out of bounds. He went up, got it, and caught it, dunked it in. I'm like, how did he catch that? I'm sure it was a turnover. Just
was a game.
Yep. And guys, thank you for that compliment, seniors. But I would be remiss because that is, I think, the key to Purdue's success since Coach Keady's been there, and I think with Coach Painter being there now, that's the key, right? Coach Keady insisted your seniors lead. Whether you played or not, you were expected to be a leader when you were a senior, and I'm sure I know without question you guys carried out that tradition, and that was just part of being a senior at Purdue. And so I think that's really one of the key ingredients that has led, I think, to Purdue's success for the last, 50 years now.
Yeah.
Well, these guys are heaping praise on you, Steve. I'll give you a little more. This is from Bill Benner's article in the Indy Star after the game. And the quote comes from Jim Cruz, who took over after Coach Knight was ejected for throwing the chair. It says, quote, Reed did an excellent job of keeping his team together and making sure they did what their coach wanted them to do. So to your point, Steve, that's what senior leadership was about, and is about, and you provided it for these guys that day.
Yeah, no question.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do, right? That was your job. When you're a senior, that was your job.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to ask, and I won't ask you about what your NIL opportunities would have been in terms of if it were 40 years later, but just the culture of college basketball and what keeps you optimistic about where it's going, and it's certainly a players league now, to say the least, but it's going to make there's got to be competitive balance down the road. Todd, I know you all have to think about that because this is your legacy to a great extent. You set the table and set a great tradition at Purdue basketball. But are you optimistic about where this is going and how this gets figured out down the road? And Todd, I always put you on the spot first, fellas.
No, I just listen. I'm all for what the premise of it is. The question is, can we put some semblance of guardrails up to where, some of these mid-major schools aren't just becoming, the AAA farm system for, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, which is pretty much what that is right now. The one thing that I would like to see is going back to, if you transfer, you got to sit out a year.
Yeah.
I mean, at least make them sit out a year. I mean, the ability for these kids now to just go to 2 and 3 schools is it makes it very difficult on programs, coaches, teams in order to get any kind of continuity. And I understand. I don't blame the kids. The money's there. It's a capitalistic society. And I can't say, we've talked about it before. I talk about it with my buddies. I'm saying, would I have stayed for 4 years at Purdue if we were in this environment? I'd like to think that I would, but who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a fair comment.
Yeah.
Troy, anything else to add to the fray there?
Yeah, I mean, Todd made good points. But the sit out a year, that's never going to happen because the toothpaste is out of the tube. That they're making changes where they're going to, I've heard rumors that, hey, you're just going to get 5 years. You can do whatever you want with those 5 years. 4 to play 5 years. You can transfer. Don't sit out. With the NIL. I mean, it'll never happen. I'm glad for the players. I'm actually glad. I thought the NCAA did themselves a disservice by not getting ahead of it when they had the opportunity back in the 80s and 90s, where Ed O'Bannon was like, hey, you got my likeness, and when Jay Billis had the Menzel jersey and it had his name on there, they could have got ahead of the situation, but they didn't, and now it's the Wild Wild West out there, and everybody's trying to get paid, and like Todd said, now you're a free agent. Every year you'd be like, can I make, Todd, can he make more money? And, at Ohio State, Everett can make more money at Illinois. What do you have, transfer out of Purdue, things like that. So, hopefully, they will, get some guardrails up, like Todd said, and things will get somewhat settled down. But, it is what it is right now. It's people are trying to get paid, and they'll keep those mid-major players will keep leaving to go to big schools to get the money, and that's what it's going to be all about. Is the big free agency every year.
Steve, Everett, any comment?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I think the players getting some money and being able to make some money is fantastic. I mean, there's so much money out, so much more money out there now in the game than when we played, even, right? I mean, coaches' salaries, all of the things that go along with that. So I think that's great. I like these guys. The portal really bothers me, and I'm afraid it's really I think at some point it's really going to deteriorate. We're going to become a Power 5. There's going to be 80 schools that are going to be playing because the football drives everything, right? And there's going to be 80 schools playing for the NCAA title. They're going to take the money from the NCAA. They're going to go do their own thing. They're going to take their basketball teams with them. And you're going to have 80 programs that are going to have a lot of money that will be kind of the major league, if you will. And then you're going to have, unfortunately, I think, you're probably not going to see a Butler in the Final Four in 10 years. You're just not going to see a school like Butler being able to have a run like they had, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And that's unfortunate. I know firsthand there's a mid-major school. Their NIL budget is $400,000 a year. They can't, and they're a pretty successful program. How can you compete with that? If you got one of your studs and he's having a great year, he can transfer and take. Man, I'm fine with transfer. I was a transfer. I'm so thankful that I was able to transfer. I never would have had a chance to come to Purdue, but I knew there was a risk. I had to sit out a year. I had to kind of work my way out, and I'm fine with that. But I think, like Troy said, probably going to happen. I think you're going to start. I got to think at some point. I saw an internet clip of, and I can't remember the company, but private businesses are looking into taking on ownership of programs. So this is going to become, it's no longer going to be college athletics. It is going to be professional sports, just at a different level, in a different scheme. But you're going to start to see these businesses, these venture capitalists going in and taking an ownership position in college programs.
I mean, to me, it's just absolutely horrible just listening to all that, because, there are some good things about it. Players getting paid. There's no doubt about it. With what the pressures and the time commitment that we go through. But to add to that, which Todd brought to my attention, because he's still in that circuit, having a younger kid himself, they don't even recruit now the high school player now, Division I. He was saying, like, it was at some big event that they had, camp, and all these top players are there. And I believe the guy who spoke said that he's not even going to none of you guys will ever be recruited by me. And this is the coach, that used to be how you made your connections or so, or had that hope. And the reason why was because, and this is so bad, they rather go and steal from the junior college, from a smaller program, take those players who are more seasoned, and now you're not going to those Division Ones and building yourself. You're going now to the smaller schools to work your way up, and it's just a horrible kind of twisted way of how the system is turning. Which
what I see with that, to Everett's point, because I'm kind of in this world right now, is you kids are deciding, even if you're pretty good, they're deciding to go to smaller schools so that they can put up better numbers, so that they can leave there and get bigger money somewhere else. They'd rather do that than go to a higher major school and sit or be a role player initially. They'd rather not do that. They'd rather go to a mid-major. I'm going to go to a mid-major. I'm going to average 18, 19 a game. And then my sophomore year, boom, I leave there and I can go get some money.
It's already
That's the way players, that's the way kids are thinking.
Yeah.
And coaches, I just heard the other day, I heard Rick Pitino, the fact that he was losing a lot of seniors. He's like, oh, no, we're not going to recruit any high school kids. We're going to go into the portal.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them already got agents. That's the other thing about people to realize. All these kids have agent, even out of high school. You have agent. If you in a transfer portal, you do not call the kid. You call his agent to see what he's looking to get in their NIL before you even get a chance to talk to get the kid on campus. So when you're
getting paid, it's professional. I don't care how you cut it up. It's professional now.
Yeah. All right. I told you we would not go much longer than we're going. And I appreciate your time. And we can do this every Sunday night and start talking about NIL and transfer portal, just what you guys want to do. But I do want to go around the room because I did a poor job on the front end. Two things. One, each person give us what you're doing now. And where you're living, but also maybe your favorite Coach Keady moment. Coach Katie's going to watch with Kathleen, I would guess, and it's important. I know that you guys had a strong relationship with the coach, and sometimes a love-hate one, but I think maybe at the end of the day it was love. And I'm going to start with you, Everett, as opposed. I'm not going to put Mitch on the spot. Everett, tell us what's keeping you busy and your favorite Coach Keady comment to Coach Keady.
All right. Well, right now what I'm doing is I got my own travel transportation business to where I cater and drive seniors to their appointments, airport runs, things like that. So I've been doing that for about 7 years and living here in Lafayette. And my favorite story with Coach Keady was when we were playing in Tahiti, because we get every 3 years we get a chance to go and play in different countries, and we're going to play against the Tahitian national team, and I'm thinking what could this be like? And of course, they were small, not as athletic, as quick and all. And I just remember, being a point guard, it was just so easy for me to make a move and get open for a shot instead of going through and running the plays. And so I was backing up shots. I must have been old. I was 0 for like 5, and everybody who touched the ball, Todd, whoever touched the ball, it was so easy just to get a shot off. So anyway, we were just playing horrible and playing selfish. And I remember Coach Keady called a timeout, and we walked over there, and he wrote on a sheet of paper, PASS, and then he showed us the sheet of paper, and we just all started busting out laughing, pass, because we were playing selfish, man, and he just called us out, man. And, that was one of the times that you appreciate the fact that he's the one leading us.
Yeah, Steve Reed.
I have been in the Savannah, Georgia area for the last 21 years. Still in the trucking business. One work for a company out of Birmingham, Alabama. That's the third largest flatbed company in the country, and have really enjoyed that. Other than that, play some golf and go around and try to spoil all my 10 grandkids as much as I possibly can. So we've been very blessed in that area, and just continue to enjoy life. And we got snow this year. I had to actually use a snow shovel for the first time since I moved from Lafayette. And I don't know how the thing made it all the way down here from Lafayette, but it came in good use this year. We just don't get snow down here.
And your handicap? You got to go to your coach.
Yeah, my handicap runs between a 0 and a 3, somewhere in that range. So,
nice.
I've had to move up the old mentees. I can't, I've gotten old.
Oh,
I got to move up a little bit.
So you up to the seniors?
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah, hey, I'm 60.
Team?
I'm 63, Troy. I get the move. You get 60, you get the move up.
Yeah. I'm not too far away.
Your Coach Keady story, Steve.
My favorite Coach Keady story really doesn't, it's not about getting temper tantrums and all those, although there were a few that come to mind. But I think the thing that always comes to mind with Coach Keady is he was at Western Kentucky when I was a senior, and he recruited me to Western Kentucky. I ended up going to Kansas State, and, no other coach. I had one coach chew me out and tell me I was going to a Hick school and why would you go to Kansas State? No other coaches, even really made any phone calls to say, good luck to you, whatever. Coach Keady went out of his way, called me, thanked me for the opportunity to have recruited me, wished me the best. It was just first class. And that was in defeat. And I'm going, man, that was really, stuck with me and has always stuck with me. And I think that's him. That's him in a nutshell. He's going to compete. When it's done, he's going to shake your hand, and he's going to handle things professionally and first class. And he expects that out of all of us. And I think, you see all these guys on this phone, and a lot of guys had very successful careers beyond basketball. My other favorite one, and it's really it's strange how it all works out in God's timing, but I remember Coach Keady talking to us in the locker room. He said, what I know we want to win, we want to get better, but what I really look forward to is you guys, when I know you've been successful, is when you take me out for dinner and you pay for it. So, actually, the last time I played golf with my dad happened to be with Coach Keady and Greg Eifert down in Myrtle Beach. And Eifert and I took Coach out for dinner. And I remember saying, Coach, we're successful, right? We're taking you out for dinner and had an opportunity to do that. So I could go on for hours. That man has touched so many lives, and mine especially.
Yeah, well said. Troy?
Yeah, that's interesting, Steve, because when he came here, when Stallings played in the first 4 here in Dayton, I took him out to dinner at the club.
Nice.
Big steakhouse. Yeah,
nice.
Steak place.
Good for you.
It's the best steak he ever had. So
yeah.
I'm in Dayton, Ohio. I work for Victory Wholesale Grocers. Been doing this for 32 years now with the company. I coach high school basketball for Centerville High School. We got a kid on the team at IU right now, Gabe Cups. I coached him 3 years. He's hurt right now on IU, had knee surgery. So it's always been always watch a little IU basketball, but to watch him. I always tell him, I say, I root for you, but still don't like IU. So, but my favorite Coach Keady story, I know I've done told this 1,000 times. We're playing Illinois, and I come down, I take a bad shot, hear him yelling, and then we get a fast break. I turn it over, try to throw it to Everett, turn it over, and then we come down, we foul, and I can hear him calling my name, and I'm going like, oh, here we go. So I run down, and I intentionally wrap my arms or put my arms around on his shoulder so he won't yell at me. And the first thing came out of his mouth was, "Son, are you gambling?" And
I love it.
I just cracked up laughing. And from that point on, I it made the game fun for me. So that's the type of coach he was. And everybody thought he was this hard-nosed guy, but he had a heck of a sense of humor.
Yeah, I love that story. You never get tired of that one. Mitch, go ahead.
Well, first off, I'm living down in South Florida, in Boca Raton, Florida. Had an opportunity to relocate here about 3.5 years ago with my company. I'm an executive with a pharmaceutical company, and so I had an opportunity to run the southeast portion of the country. And so I used to do the same thing in the Midwest, but now I do the same thing down here, running the southeast. Have about 7 states, but I've been doing that for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Have a young son involved in most of his sports. He plays every single thing. So that keeps me busy. And down here in Florida, they play year round. They play everything year round.
Yeah.
So you got to pick and choose which sport you're going to play all the time. But really enjoying my time down here. And the best day I ever had was when I left Ohio, and the guy came and picked up my snowblower. That was the greatest day ever. And I take that with me. But I think there's so many stories, like everybody has said, with Coach Keady. One of the better stories I had was we were at Illinois, and the referee called a foul, and Coach was so upset. He got up. He was arguing the foul. He took off his sport coat, and he threw his sport coat, and it went up. It went past the benches, up into the crowd. And he came back. I was sitting right next to Coach Stallings on the bench, and he comes back and he sits down and he says, "Where's my coat?" And Stallings says, "Well, Coach, I think it went up in the stands." He says, "Somebody go get my coat." He said, "Pat just bought that, and she's going to kill me if that coat."
Well said. Well said. Hey, guys, thanks. Nate, go ahead. You're left close.
Hey, we just want to thank you guys. You're all childhood heroes of mine, but we thought it was appropriate to have the 4 of you together tonight because, Steve, you represent one of the best college basketball clips in history, being a part of that. But also, I think for Purdue fans that just loved Troy, Todd, and Everett, their great careers here at Purdue, along with yours, Steve, this game marked the start of kind of that special era. And as Purdue would go on the next couple of years to win some Big Ten championships and be one of the top programs in the country. But when you look at this game, there's a benchmark there of, that kind of started the Three Amigos era at Purdue on a national basis. And it's iconic, unforgettable. And just thank you for all the memories, guys, that you've created for our fans.
Nate, well said, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks for putting up with my technical faux pas on the front end.
All right.
We're always grateful for your time, and as Purdue people, there'll be better days ahead. You know that. There's what did Gene Keady always say? It was the peaks and the valleys, but he had another way of putting it.
So, the sun's coming up tomorrow.
The sun's coming up tomorrow.
Sun's coming up tomorrow.
Purdue basketball fans, that is the case. Gentlemen, have a great rest of your evening.
Hey, good seeing all you guys, man. Good seeing you.
And for all of you that tuned in, if you don't see all of this, we'll have on replay on the site tomorrow. Guys, I'll send you the link as well, and you can share it with whoever you need to do that. But guys, thanks again. We look forward to seeing all of you in West Lafayette before long, except we're all going to go visit Steve and play some golf here before long.
Anytime you're ready.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
See ya.